Yeah, it's going. All right. Got it. And record. So I'm so excited to welcome Melynda Lopez to the Infinite Potential Within Chats. I'm going to go ahead and start off by letting you tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so hello everybody. I am Melynda. Today, this week, right now, I am a spiritual mentor. It changes literally like day by day. An Akashic record healer. I'm also a nurse and a mommy and all of those other things. What else do I want to say about myself? I'm actually online at love_Melynda, and I founded the Clairs, which is another program where we really like tap into our innate gifts and our magic.
I love that. Like, I love I love watching you and your energy pop up all over the place, because you definitely radiate this really beautiful glow about you, and it comes out in your writing, it comes out in your graphics that you have. Like, it all definitely like exudes this really, really like attracting vibe. Like, it definitely pulled me in. And like, I don't know how long we have been friends in Facebook world, but somewhere in there it pulled me in, and I was like, oh, like I'm watching you, and just like I love it. And because part of your story, it resonates in a way that I can relate with very much. Like, when you shared with me about, being a nurse and watching people pass and having that be a place where, you're deciding to share your gifts because life is short. Like, I totally resonate with that in a way that goes very beyond what I would have ever known possible for myself. So with that, I would love to know a little bit more about how that's been unfolding for you.
Like just how I've been opening up to my own gifts, or It's not even that, it's just sharing it. Because like, let's be honest, I mean, I think anybody that is, I guess you would say, spiritual, I mean, I kind of don't even like to say that, but awakening to their intuition, and any other like entrepreneur just having a message that has to show up and say something, it's scary, and it can feel like, oh my gosh, is somebody going to judge me? I mean, I know that was my thing. A lot of it was like, if I shared kind of who I really was out, not just online, but like just to my family, to friends, like, will they totally disown me? Will they like hate me? It was like that whole thing. And I realized just learning about different things that it really is tied to the witch wound of that wound of persecution, because I used to feel like if I showed people or told people what I really believed in, that I would be killed. And I remember thinking, like, how could I think that? It's so wild. So as when I started becoming a nurse, that's kind of when a lot of my own gifts kind of came online. I knew I had gifts, but I shut them down. And then my children had a lot of gifts, so I would help them. But then for me, I started experiencing it when I first became a nurse. And it was very scary, because it really wasn't something I was choosing. I didn't like go out looking for it. It was just happening to me. So it was confusing. It was scary. And also, as I was learning as a nurse, these people were like kind of desperate. Like, they were willing to do anything. So I kind of had like free reign to be like, oh, can I like put my hands over you? Can I pray over you? Can I call on angels for you? And they'd be like, do anything, because it was just like in that state. So in a sense, I really have used my nursing career as also like my own, I guess, healing practice and teaching, in a sense, of the different type of healing, in a sense. So I was slowly coming out. I did met a lot of resistance. I've met a lot of judgment, especially in the nursing world. So it was like living two separate lives, which I'm sure a lot of people can resonate, whether it's their career or their family. It's like, this is who I am here, and then this is who I am over there. And there's still like that disconnect, because in a sense, like we're still like, what I want to say, like, it's almost like we're still denying ourselves, you know. It's because you're still like having to play something that you're not over here. And I remember it was a couple of years ago, one of the nurses they were just where I work now, they were just like, you have to just be yourself. Like, you have to just own it. Like, this is who you are. Like, this isn't what we do. We don't understand it, but like, who cares?
Yeah.
This is our-
yeah. And I mean, I'm such a firm believer in that. When we feel that pull, and I will probably talk about this a million times on this show, because I firmly believe when we feel that pull to something, there is a greater reason behind it. And it doesn't matter if, you know, what we think and what that part of us that's judging us, we are doing a disservice by not going forward with whatever that nudge is and wherever we're feeling pulled to. And that's where, you know, I share about 5 years ago now, where as I've to take a step back, I've had some very, very pivotal traumatic moments in my life that have really shifted me into going, I know I want to help other people. And first I'm going to help myself. And about 2012-ish, I started going down this road of becoming a health coach. And because my daughter had started having seizures, and she was only about 13 months old or so, and it pretty much came out of nowhere. And with that, like, I'm like, okay, here. So I was very drawn into health coaching. I was very drawn into this space of learning about what we eat, learning about how that affects our body, end up, double certified as a health coach, like down the road. But I found that health coaching wasn't necessarily where I was really feeling pulled to. And it all transformed at the end of my marriage. I found a really great friend, opened me up to this book, and that changed my journey. And that book itself led me into this place of learning more about intuition, learning more about that side of myself, and connecting into more of that spiritual place, and connecting more into myself, to that culmination of, I was at the festival here I'm in Las Vegas, and having the shooting happened, it hit in such a way that, like, I heard things going, like, you're meant to help other people. Like, you're meant to do something. And from that point, it was like, okay, I get you. And I hear that, but like, what do I do next? Like, how am I supposed to go forth? Because here, like, I was working on health coaching and I was doing that, and it wasn't fully resonating. What am I supposed to do next with this? And but it never left me, because I know that it's such a huge part of me. So like, now it's just like, okay, I have to put, that part on the other side. And like, I know that we also share that overcoming part about that fear of being seen, and that fear of, like, for me, like, being seen and showing up and having people go, oh, she's talking about that again, and I'm like, okay, here, that's my ego voice going, here, nobody's really saying that. And if they are, like, those again aren't the people that I'm meant to, like, direct towards. So it doesn't matter. So it's putting that earmuffs on to them and the ego and going, no, like, I am meant to show up in the way that I'm feeling called for. So like, I totally respect the fact that you are following that and, using that to overcome where you have had your fear.
Yeah. I want to say though, like, when there are those people that are judgmental, or they're like, oh, like, I can't stand her, or there's something about her. Like, even though we feel like, okay, they're not our people, but we also don't know the backstory, because they actually, whatever we may have spoken to and maybe have irritated them, that may have kind of triggered them to their journey. And we just don't really know, which is kind of amazing that each, like, little talk or some type of emotion or reaction that we can bring up into somebody can be like the kind of like the pivoting point for them as well, kind of like what you're talking about, like our pivoting points. So it's kind of amazing.
And I totally agree. Like, I years ago, where I had to kind of talk myself into that place, I was like, okay, here, if this is bringing up something for somebody or myself, If
Yeah.
this is bringing up something for me, this is either a trait that I'm carrying within me, or this is something that like, we're mirroring back to each other, that like, and going down that side of more of that shadow self, more of that part of us that we don't always acknowledge. If something is bringing up that emotion, if it's bringing up that emotion, should really dive into why. And and that's also coming from a place that I love to dive into stuff, and I know that not everybody is ready for that part, but just that awareness of, hey, that's bringing up an emotion in me, and what am I feeling, what is going on, and where do I want to go next with that, is so huge.
Yeah, that is huge. Like, and that is super huge in really accessing like your pure intuition, because if you are emotional and you don't want to look at it, then you don't even know really what your true intuition is, because your emotions are probably driving you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, and it's so important, to me, that potential that is within us, like it is that infinite place, and being able to tap into what it is that is bringing things up for us, where it is that we're pulled, like that is going to take us into so many other beautiful places. And it really can allow us to explore so much more in life. And I had a chat the other day, and it was like, okay, if you're truly content where you are, like, I would never be one to push somebody, like, hey, if you're content and that's where you are, but if you even have that smallest inkling that you want something greater for yourself, like totally say, like explore it, go down that tunnel, like figure out what's on that other side. Like, that tunnel may be a little bit dark there, but there's a light at the end of it, and it's going to bring you to something more. And it's so worth exploring.
It is.
So with that, like,
go ahead.
Oh,
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say that I've known for a really long time that like my guides wanted me to come out and be a teacher and talk on this stuff. And I would always say, no, I don't want to do that. Like, I'm good. Like, I have my family, I'm a nurse, like, leave me alone. I don't want to do it. And I would just do it for myself. But the thing with that was, which I didn't know, like what you were saying, I didn't know it at the time. I didn't see what the potentials could be, but I suffered a lot. Like, I went through a lot of different traumatic events, just like way beyond that time. But, during the time where the true pivoting point for me was like in 2018, like of coming out and sharing it to others, because I was like, I'm not sharing with others. Like, this is just for me. This is sacred. This is for my family. And that's it. And I was really burnt out. I got really sick. I had a lot of emotions. My work was just like super exhausting me. And I actually had an event where my heart went into 180 beats per minute. And I remember like that day, it was when I got home from work, and I was so stressed out. I don't remember what happened at work, but nursing is very stressful. And on top of that, when you're constantly resisting like kind of what you're truly supposed to do, on top of the stressful work and the worrying and the anxiety, and is everything working out? Is this okay? Are my kids good? Is this right? My heart went to 180 beats per minute, and my husband was there, and I was like, holy shit. Like, I was sweating profusely, like my whole nursing kicked in, and I was like, oh my God, my heart, I'm not going to be able to handle this. I'm going to die. And the thing that was crazy is, I guess at the time, I guess I was asking to die. So I was just like, I couldn't take it anymore. I was like, it was too stressful with all this stuff. And so my husband was like, do I call 911? I'm like, no, like, I'm not going back to that place. I just got home from there. And my heart is like beating out of my chest. And so we like did we did a lot of the tappings and the things that I do to bring anxiety down, because it was like maybe I was just having a panic attack. So I calmed myself down. He helped me, but my heart was just 180 beats. It was just going, and I felt it. It felt like I was at CrossFit, like it was intense. And so I was like, give me 2 hours, like, let me just try this out for 2 hours. And then if I pass out, do CPR kind of on, or take me to the hospital. And so I think about 30 minutes in, I started getting energy. My heart was still going. I was doing all the things to try to bring it down and it wasn't working. And like 30 minutes in or an hour in, Jesus came. And he was like, "Are you ready?" And I was just like, "I'm not ready. Like, like I have a baby, I have 3 kids, like what?" Like, and he said, like, "You've been asking for this. So I'm here to take you, unless you're ready to fulfill your purpose." And I'm like, what is my purpose? Like, what do you mean? Like, what are you talking about? And he said, you're here to be the way shower. You're the teacher. Like, the way that they always say is like, they say you're the mother of the newer children is like what they always call me. And I'm like, what does that mean? And then my heart's going. So I was like, yes, I'll do it. I'll finally do it. I'll just do it. Like, help me. And so he like left and I was like, what? My heart was still going. And it was like, I think it was an hour and 30 at the time. And so I was like, what do I do? And I was like praying and doing all my healing work and nothing was working. And I was like, help me do this. And he was like, you have been training for this for like 10 years. You know how to do this. You got to do this. And so I was starting to do all my stuff. And like right when the 2-hour mark came, I saw Jesus again and he led me through 3 breathing techniques. And then my heart went back to 70 beats per minute. And so after that, it was like, holy crap. I have to do, not that I have to do this, but it was like such a pivotal point of, okay, if I literally could just, I know that I had help, but I was like, I just got out of like literal death in a sense. I'm like, I have to do this. And so that's where I really, I hired my first coach, which I didn't know what a coach was at that time. And it was a business coach. I had no business. And so, but for some reason, I kept getting these messages to hire him. And he's a self-mastery coach. So I ended up healing myself. And in the process, he kept telling me, you're magical. And I was like, no, I'm not. Like, what? I was still in the process of denying it. But as I started healing, as I started moving towards this acceptance of, okay, this is my role, I did start to heal. And that's kind of really how I started sharing my gifts. It was just like, well, you know what? I haven't been healed yet. So let's just do this.
I mean, I love that. Like, I can tell you, I relate on the heart on like, and how scary that can be. Mine was stuck there at about 188 for 2.5 hours about 2 years ago. And then I had a procedure last July to like help. But there were very pivotal moments in that, because it's like, there's a lot, going on. And that's where is like, what, having your points where you were able to learn from what you saw and what you heard on how to breathe, what to do next, and here this is going to take you. Like, I like I said, I totally feel that in that way of like, there's something else there, and there's something else that pulls us. And like, the exact words that were spoken to me were, right now is not your time. You're meant to help other people. And, and this is in the rush of running and, seeing a lot of things that, I hope most people never have to, most people will never have to go through, should I say. And those that have, like, it's something that will stay with you forever. But with that, like, I'm hearing this in my head going, what? Like, okay, I'm just going to keep running. Like, this is what I've got to do now. Like, I'll figure this out later. We'll revisit this. And then when it came back up, after of like here, I instantly went to therapy. And then, this journey like went down even further. Like that whole day for me was like a very guided day up into that event. Like there was a lot of like intuition that was very much at play from like, hey, you know what? You don't need to sit over here, to like, hey, this and this. And like, I believe that was all, from learning how to be that beginning journey of how to listen. And then, coming back, I feel like a lot of my chats lately have actually been about intuition and like listening to that call that is within us, which does lead us to that potential, like that higher version of ourselves, like that soul journey that we're here for. If we're listening, it's talking to us, like it's telling us what to do next, and sometimes we don't like that answer.
Yeah.
Because we're going to go through a lot of things in order to get to that place that, we're feeling, but it's so worth it. And, like, I know for me now to be able to, work with other people to help them go to that next level that they're seeking, is incredible. Just sharing between the stuff that I've been certified for and where I've been in my life and what I intuitively feel when I'm with them. Like, it's incredible. And it's incredible in a way, like when I got certified with Reiki 2, like I had the person that, I was certified by, she told me, she's like, yeah, the thing with you and why I'm drawn to different things is because, one, I know that they're going to help other people. And that's why I like all the different modalities. But in addition to that, she goes, she's like, her guides were telling her that, here, have her perform this because she already knows how. And she's like, I looked at my guides and went, but it's psychic surgery. She doesn't know anything about this. And they go, yes, she does. Like, let her do it. And she's like, okay, I'm going to lay on the table. You're going to do what you need to do. And you're going to tell me after. And I'm like, okay. Like, and she's like, and just go for it. She goes, because that's what you're here for. Like, you're here to help others on that healing journey. Like, that's where you are. And people will be drawn to you in that way. And I was like, and it's one of those things that I'm sure that you probably can relate with when you look back at your life. Like, there are people that are just drawn and ask for advice or are looking for a certain something. Or one of the things that I thought was incredible was when I started to notice that, like, if I'm out in large crowds, I can be where there's a total opening next to me, but people are going to step right next to me here. Instead of like the opening that's over here, they'll step right here. And I started to realize it's because, as the more I learned about energy and everything, I'm like, it's because you're giving off something. You're giving off something that they're picking up, even though they consciously are not picking that up. It helps, like when they walk by.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of people. A lot of the people that sign up with me are like, it's because I heard the wind tell me to join this group, or my guide sent me to you, or my ancestors sent me to you. So I get a lot of that. And I'm just like, okay, yeah, probably.
So you spoke about your children, like having, recognizing that they have their gifts. Do you have any stories that you would like to share where you noticed that with them?
I have a lot of stories. The one that I share a lot because it was, I always known it was real for them. That was kind of my mission, was like to learn how energy works, how things work, because they were, seeing dark shadows, and a lot of like ghosts would visit them, or my at the time I just had the two. They're older. They're like 18 and 23 now, but like they would always see like orbs and ghosts, and the younger one would always feel a lot of energy, and he would come home and be like, my teacher is having so-and-so like heart issues. And I'm like, how do you know that? He's like, I don't know. I just felt it, and then so I had they're all Reiki certified when they were little, but because I wanted them to learn how to work with their own energy and to help themselves. But back in, I don't know when was it, like 2012 or something, I like received like my first intuition of like, move back to California. And we had built our house. Everything was set where we were at in Texas. And so my husband was like, okay, let's go. And I think our kids were like 13 and 8 at the time. And so I could not see spirit yet, but I was starting to get a lot of angelic guidance and music and all of these things, like as being a nurse. And so we gave everything away. We literally just took clothes, whatever could fit in our 2 cars. And we were like, we're gone. We had no jobs. I paid like 1 month's rent at an apartment in LA. And we were just like, F it, let's do this, like, adventure. And so we headed out with our 2 kids. I was in one car, my husband was in the other driving. And I think we stopped off maybe somewhere along the line in Texas, like at a rest stop. And we ate lunch, and then our car wouldn't start. Like one of the cars wouldn't start. And so was like, holy crap, because we were in the middle of nowhere. We had a certain amount of money and that was it.
Yeah.
And so I started, like, I think it was like 3 hours in, and I'm like praying and praying. And I started like being like, oh my God, I made the wrong decision. Like that wasn't God sending us to California. It was the devil. No, I don't know. I was just like, oh my God, I was like really like punishing myself. And I was just like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So I think it was like a little like 3 hours in, these 2 men came and they were talking to my husband in Spanish, and they were looking at the car and they found what was wrong. It was like the steering pump had broke, which was crazy because we had all our cars checked out.
Yeah.
So one of the men had to take my husband to town, which was an hour away. And the other man stayed with me and my 2 kids. Literally, like, could have killed us. Like, but we had no choice. We were desperate. So they went to town. They ordered the part and it wasn't there. So we had to pack all of our stuff in one car that worked and drive back to the town and stay in a hotel. So the next morning, those 2 men met us. They fixed the car, like put the pump on, and we had to drive back to town to, I guess, turn back in the car. And so I was praying, like at the time I was really into archangels and like Mother Mary. So I was like, had these like Mother Mary beads that I got from like my work back in the day. And I was praying, and my husband was in his car, like under the hood. They were looking at the car. And my son at the time, he was 13. He's my oldest. He's 23 now. He was like, Mom, like, I need to talk to you. And I was like, I'm praying, like, the hell, like I'm like totally into prayer right now. And he was like, no, I really need to talk to you. So I was like, what? And he was like, okay, like, I'm not kidding, but there's a huge blue angel under Daddy's hood. And I was like, I was praying for Archangel Michael to fix my husband's car. And I prayed for Archangel Raphael to bring an army of angels to guide us to California. And I was like, what? Like, what did you say? And I was like, you see, he's like, I see it with my eyes. Like, he's always, before that was always like ghosts, like dark shadows. And he was like, I'm not kidding. There's and I was like, what does he look like? He's like, he's blue. There's a hammer in one hand and there's a sword in the other. And I was like, what is he doing? And he said, I think he's fixing Daddy's car. And so I was like, I'm like freaking out. Like, oh my, I'm literally freaking out. Cause I was like, I didn't know really if what I was doing was real. It was just, I was just so drawn to it. And so I was like, what else? What else? Like, what else? Is there anything else that you see? And he said, yes, there's an legion of angels coming in the sky. And I said, well, like, what do they look like? What do you mean? And he said, there's like rows of silver angels and the front row is green. And I was like, what are they doing? And he said, I think they're going to escort us to California. And I was like, I was screaming, and I'm like, so then I told him what I was praying for. And so anyways, we take off. The whole trip, we're like, me and my son, my husband didn't know anything because he was just like focusing on his car. He was in his car. Me and my son were like freaking out, like screaming, like, oh my God, this is real. Like, this is actually real, because we've been doing all this stuff, but we're like, oh my God, you could see them. Like, oh my God, like, I can't believe you could see them, just freaking out. And I remember we saw this billboard. It said something like, with God, all things are possible. And we were just like, oh my God, just like everything we would see, we'd freak out. And so we were driving and he fell asleep. And then he woke up. I think we were in New Mexico at the time. He woke up and he was like, Mom, I think the angels were in my dream telling me something. And I was like, okay, take a deep breath. What was it? Like, what did they say? And he said, I think there's something wrong with dad's car. He has to pull over. And so I call my husband, like literally we never had cell phones. We like literally went to Walmart and got prepaid phones for the drive. I call my husband. I'm like, you have to pull over. Something's wrong with your car. And he was like, okay. So he pulls over. We're in New Mexico and we stop off just the side of the road. And he was like, my car doesn't turn, like, because we were on, I think, was it the 10 where it's just a straightaway?
Yeah.
He said, I can't turn the wheel. And so we're like, I think this trip was amazing, but it was also like traumatic. And so I was like, oh my God, like, what are we going to do now? So I call my parents. I think it was a Sunday. So they were like, we have, I think, a Pep Boys credit card. There's $300 on it. See if there's a Pep Boys. So we found a Pep Boys. They were just closing, but they said they would let us come because we told them the circumstances. We found another hotel. The next morning we go pick it up. Basically, I guess the steering pump you have to put in a specific way. So because it was just on the side of the street, it only, got us so far. So the bill was $299. And so we were like, oh my God. Like at the time we finally told my other son.
Yeah.
And my other son. So we're all like, oh my God, this is real. Like this is happening. Like this is actually happening. So we take off, we go to Arizona, we go to my husband's family's house, spend the night, get ready to go to California. And then his car wouldn't go again. We were at the gas station and something was happening. And so I was like, okay, now call on Archangel Michael. Like it was like all these different techniques we had to use. So he called on them and he was like, okay, the message that I'm getting is cut and pull. So apparently like there's like a tubing on the steering pump and it was too long. So it kinked itself off. So my husband found it, cut it and pulled it. And then we freaking made it to California. Like when we hit like more of like LA's line, we were cussing. Like, I mean, I know he's a 13-year-old. We were like, F yes, we freaking made it. Like we made it. And it's just, like after that, it was like not that I never doubted, right? Like there's always those moments of like, is that what I really? But I mean, I never doubted that it wasn't real. That it wasn't, like that it wasn't real.
That's a lot. Like, and that is incredible. And I love that you were in a place that you allowed yourself to listen because, I know when I was first really picking up on my intuition, and what certain things were telling me, or, like I hear things. And so when I would hear things, I was just like, oh, nope, that's crazy. So the first, few times, and I'm sure it was actually probably even more than that. There's a lot of stuff from when I was younger that I just have blocked out, but like, I'd hear it and I'm like, oh no, that's crazy. Like, no. And like, now I'm like, nope, I listen like instantly. It's like, nope, don't go down that road. Okay. Like I won't like, or here, you need to do this. Okay, I will. Like, it's easier now, but like that beginning. So like to have such a profound like experience to be able to listen to that, like, and have it guide you. And yeah, I think that the help is always there, kind of like, in Harry Potter, like the help is always there. You just have to ask for it.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to listen. And, even if we might not like what we're hearing, listening and showing up and, following that's it. It leads to the help that we're looking for. And that's incredible. And so, like, I totally appreciate you sharing that story. Like my youngest two are actually right now 14 and 10. And then my oldest one is 23 going on 24 this year. And she is very in tune in so many ways that it's been incredible to watch. Like that child created a business when she was just shy of like 18. Within a year, she had grossed $100,000 like off of this idea of like, hey, I'm going to do this, because she like went, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to put this out there, and stuff would just unfold. Like she is that manifester. Like it's quick and it's there. there. And then she did it again. Like she's definitely incredible to watch in that way, to watch like where she's so in tune. And then my son, like one day he asked me, he goes, what are those like colors called that are around people? And I'm like, hold on. First off, you see colors? Like, and I'm like, well, that would be like an aura. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, that's cool. Like, I want to see colors. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and now since then, like there has been some times, but like when he was sharing, like I was like, oh, he goes, yeah, like I see that. And I'm like, oh, like that's so cool. And then my youngest one, like, you know, she definitely taps into different places that like are starting to unfold more and more. And, you know, she would have those conversations like in her crib that you're like, who are you talking to? What's there? Like, what's going on? And that was her. And that's always been, you know, that I think that there's more there, and that, you know, and then us as parents being able to allow them to cultivate more of that for themselves, and not being like, you don't see that, you don't hear that, like that's not actually there, is so huge, because that's how it all stops for us.
Yeah. That's why I like learned for myself on kind of how to help them, because I was like, I am not going to tell them that they're weird or that it's not real, because that was kind of like, my mom is really psychic. Like I come from like, her side is the Apache Native Americans. And so when I was growing up, my dad would always be like, oh, she's crazy. It's on your head. And he really like kind of, you know, like talk down about it. And then she would always be afraid of it. And she would get like people coming to her, like ghosts and stuff that she knew. And so I never was like, already just from all of that, I was like shutting it down. Like I shut it down.
Yeah. Like the first time I saw what you know, like I saw the shadow, I was like, no, I'm afraid. Like me and I was like, I was at that point like 13 years old, and I was like, like, and I was just like, we're not doing this, not today. Like I am not like after I saw it, I was like, I'm not looking back at that. Like I'm not doing it again. And like, so I can feel that at times though. Like I can feel that presence, and you know, in those, and it's not just like, I do know the difference between like, hey, I just shut off the light downstairs, now I got to run up the stairs because I feel like there's going to be something back there, versus like there's really something going on there. Like I don't care, I will be 44 in like a week and a half, and I still will run up the stairs. Like that is my child going, nope, I'm running up, I'm going to bed. Like we're not having it.
My shamanic apprenticeship, that was kind of like one of the main things that we worked on, is like working with, I guess, dark spirits. And so a lot of the what would you call it, what did he call it, I'm trying to remember, it's been such a long time, I guess, lessons, there would be dark shadows attacking me. And so I would have to, you know, like do my stuff to get rid of it. But I remember one time, my 8-year-old, he was a baby at the time, but I can't remember what he was doing, but I knew that something was bothering him. Like something was attacking him. I think he was shaking or something. And so I was like, okay, do not mess with my baby. If you need to mess with somebody, you mess with me. And it literally jumped on top of me. It started shaking me. And then I just did my thing, and then it was gone. But yeah, I'm like not scared anymore. I'm like, yeah.
I mean, I'm hoping at some point in time, like I will like release that part, but that's not my active place where I'm working on right now. I'm like, I'm gonna have like that, and you know, my fear of spiders, that's just gonna stick. Like, I know you're tiny, and I know that like in actuality, that's like, but like that's an action, like that fear is like.
There's a black widow that always comes to our front door. I don't know. But we don't kill her. We don't kill her. Obviously, my husband will never kill a spider, but
yeah, like me, I'm like, like if I see, thankfully, I don't see very many spiders around in the house and stuff. But I'll be like my wife, I'm like, okay, there's a bug. Like, you need to take care of this. She's like, why do you think I want to take care of it? And I'm like, I mean, because somebody's got to, and it's not going to be me. Like, so either we're going to just name it and it's going to be in here somewhere, and I'm probably not going to go back into that room, but somebody needs to take care of it.
Yeah, we definitely have spiders with names here.
So, kind of to pull this back into, like, what would you tell 18-year-old you?
That's a good one. I would say I would tell 18-year-old me that all of the different things that you move through are specifically for a reason, and it's going to feel really uncomfortable, but like, you are so powerful. You will find your way out, and then you are going to be able to help others through that time. So like, you're good. Like, you are good.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I feel like every answer that I'm hearing from people are like, I'm like, oh my gosh, yes. I can feel that, because like, when we're at that age, it's such a, pivotal point of where we're going next in life. And, just that learning and that growing forward journey. And, the things that I know now, like, it's looking back going, man, like, it's incredible to see how far, we come and how far we're going to continue to go. And it's just such an incredible journey. And I am so grateful that you were here to share your journey and pieces of it with me and the audience. And if you want to tell people again, how to reach you and what you have going on next.
You can reach me on Instagram at love_Melynda, or my website, which is it's all in the link bios and all that. But right now I actually have, it's a membership, but it's literally a program, but it's Nurture the Witch Wound. And it's really a healing space for women to come together in sisterhood to heal on a very deep soul level their different witch wounds of belonging, being seen, expression, money, connection, all of those things. And at the same time, it is about learning how to shift your frequency to really embody the different witch archetypes, which lives within every single one of us. And it's really just, it is your infinite potential. It is you owning and acknowledging the magic and the power that you hold.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for being here. This was a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to watching what you do next. And yeah, thank you for coming on.
Thank you.